Joseph, and also the work he's been doing in the community. Since I was elected, not only helping on the campaign, but serving on the district advisory board, being involved in several task force downtown that people didn't always see him doing, but he was always working and always engaged and always cared. And then to have the courage to put his name on the ballot to run for city council, that's a different type of race. He hasn't done that, but doing that and running an honorable campaign, always staying above the fray, doing what was good to represent in the way that I know he will on council. And I've joked with him all of those long days and hard nights gets him ready to be an elected official. Yeah. There's just so much that happens that everyone doesn't know about. And the calls that we get in the situations. And anytime something happens with, like yesterday, that incident downtown, like we get messages about that. If somebody needs help and we know them or connected in some way through some officer, we'll get a text about that. It doesn't matter what time of night that is. So I did tell him that a lot of that campaign work was preparation for what he's about to experience, but I'm really excited for his leadership and what will come from that. I told several people that I'll say it here. Not only is he a better speaker than I am, I think that he will do an incredible job as a council member. He's the right person with the right temperament, and I think he can bring the right people together to continue to make change in the district. So it has been an honor. Again, happy to talk about any questions you all may have, but also as member-elect, board is yours from now until what? However long, 8 years.
Let's start with 4. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Joseph Shepard. For those who have not had the opportunity to meet personally, I feel like I've had the chance to meet a lot of you one-on-one, but I am proud to be the council member-elect Wichita City Council District 1. I will be sworn in on January 12th at 5:30 p.m. and my first council meeting will take place the following day on January the 13th. So looking forward to that. It's been a long and hard journey to get here, but as Councilmember Johnson has mentioned, I truly do believe that a lot of what I experienced was preparing me for the road ahead over the 4 years. I believe District 1 is the conscience of the city. I think if good things happen in the city of Wichita, they will first happen in District 1. I believe that our district is very reflective of the city at large. And so the issues are very complex. They're very nuanced. No area of our district can you apply a one-size-fits-all method to it. And so I think it challenges the council member to really be methodical in their approach, to be strategic, but to also get out of our ivory tower and to be with the people, people who we may not have engaged with or be most proximate to on a day-to-day. But my hope is that I'll continue to learn from those people and that those people will learn from me. I hope that I'll be able to expose them to some different perspectives that they've not yet considered. And I hope vice versa. And I hope that there are more cute dogs in the district. I ran on 3 things. I really talked about kitchen table issues. I'm somebody that I'm from the generation where we are fed up with the political theater. We don't think that the partisan gridlock is getting us anywhere. And so what does that mean? That means that if you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, a libertarian, unaffiliated, or no political affiliation at all, to me, that doesn't really matter. What matters is what are we doing to move our communities forward and what are we doing to actually meet people where they are. During the campaign, our campaign team knocked 4,700 doors. And my commitment on those doors was that this was not going to be the last time that we were on those doors. It's going to be happening throughout my 4 years. And every quarter we will be on the doors and engaging with neighbors and asking them, what are the challenges? Where are the opportunities? And what is the city doing well that you want to see grow? That's what I believe really helped me shape, I guess, the pillars of our campaign was actually speaking with the people. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions about me. I'm an open book. You may not always like the answers that I give you, but I'm going to tell you what I feel is the truth, which is my truth. And I'm also willing to be wrong. I reserve the right to be wrong, but I just ask that you please work with me. Narratives are out there about a lot of leaders and a lot of people. My hope is that you will get to know me for yourself. Take the time to get to know me for yourself. Let's go grab coffee. Let's grab a libation. If you want a libation, if not, let's go and have some good food because I love to eat as well. And let's get to know each other on a personal basis, not based on what you see on social media, what you hear in the community. If you did not hear from Joseph for yourself, then it's probably not something you can count on. So please take the time to hear from me for yourself.
Do not take him up on food. I warned him about the freshman 15 to 20.
It worked out. I go to the gym. It's all good. It's all good.
Can we just say a thank you to Councilmember Johnson for his service? I just feel like we sort of skipped over him.
Wichita's next mayor.
Right?
Good job.
This is for, yeah, Member Johnson, what do you expect from the new city manager? I mean, and really both of you, I don't know if you've had a chance to meet with him, Joseph, but what can we expect to see? I mean, where do you think he's gonna really bring us forward, and where do you think it may be a challenge?
Well, from my perspective, I can say from the one conversation we have a meeting on Monday. His first 60 to 90 days is going to be out in the community. He's going to be doing tours with each council member, the mayor, going to talk to education leaders, business leaders, neighborhood leaders, and trying to get a feel of everything. His goal when he was when he was an applicant for city manager was taking good to great. So he's going to look at everything we're doing and see how he can make it better. I think that's a great opportunity for different boards to talk to him about, what they see could make something better and work with them. I told him he's got a lot of work here in Wichita because the manager's engaged in a lot of spaces. And what I'm going to tell him on Monday was even with Bob didn't always tell us what neighborhoods he was going to, but there were several times throughout my terms in office where I would show up to a neighborhood meeting and Bob was there. And so he needs to be out there as well. I think his goal is going to be trying to, again, take good to great, convene people around those things, but he's got a lot of learning to do, a lot of relationships to build, and he's coming into a tough time with the budget. So, I mean, he's got that, got the home sales tax conversation going on, and he's like kind of swept up in all of that. I think one of the benefits, though, is especially for Joseph, you'll get to know him kind of as a new council member, but you have members who've been there for a few years as well, that could be good or bad.
Right.
So I will be challenging him to just think about things in a different way.
Yeah.
And hopefully that works out with him.
How do people get on his schedule?
You can reach out to Shannon. So she's the executive assistant to the city manager, Shannon Worthington. And she can help get that set up. I think his email and everything is set up right now.
It just got some yesterday.
So it just got set up yesterday, but Shannon's the one that controls that account.
I had a phone call with him maybe 2 weeks ago. It was a very brief congratulations for both of us, and looking forward to working with him. January 23rd is when he will be in District 1. I am going to ask Councilmember Johnson to join me on that tour, so that way he can understand the complexities of every single district, but specifically our district, and understanding that there are different needs in different areas of the community. But I know that he's really excited. One of the things that I've been doing is really trying to understand what each of my future colleagues are focused on as well, and trying to figure out where that overlap is. I think a lot of people don't understand that a lot of us have a lot of the same things that we want for our district. And it's better to be able to get on the same page and work together than it is to work in silos. So if there's a way for us to partner with future colleagues, with the city manager, I'm going to be all about that. But making sure that the city manager is being proximate to the people and engaging with them is one of my key priorities.
Okay. So last night I was watching Tubi, I was watching Equalizer, and like every commercial was something about Wichita Forward. Like, what do you know about that organization?
Yeah.
Tell me anything about them?
That's the.
Before I take that, I want to recognize Senator Del. And Errol Murray running for U.S. Senate. What we talk forward is the sales tax initiative. So the meetings that we had, the ballot that we're going to come up on March 4th, they are the ones so they're paying for all the ads and they're just talking about what it would be. Short covered public safety investments out of the CIP, so 132.5 million fire, 2 million or something police. That's like equipment vehicles, all that type of stuff. There's a property tax relief portion of it. There's money for performing art. Something else, and then all the downtown,
And the
and
homeless.
the homelessness in downtown.
But who's like behind it though? Like, what are the individuals?
So
that
the
are
three
running?
principals
Rich
are
people.
Aaron Bastion, Ben Hutton, and John Rolfe, and then they have Ben Davis on the team. Not forget the other person.
They're business owners.
What do they want to get out of it? I mean,
Tax incentives.
well, oh.
Or I kept getting like, it said like
What
old
do they
people
have to get out of it? Cause this.
married families or something. In the commercial, that's what I was getting. It said, but I was
Yeah.
like, well, what about young people and
Yeah.
people that aren't families as well?
I feel like they probably have a personal agenda.
So their personal agenda, as it always has been, is investing in Wichita. And
Well,
they
that's
could
not a
then do
bad
it in
thing.
different ways.
Okay.
But when we talk about sales tax, so if you remember when we were talking about the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan, that ended up being a sales tax. And where we continue to find ourselves as a city is, and now I get this more because I grew up on this side of town and I never cared about that. When you look at where we're missing out money on conventions, Century 2 is a great historic facility, but when you look at conventions nationwide, it doesn't work for that. Brown isn't big enough, and then you have that 30,000 that's too low. So that needs to be expanded. If we could expand that for conventions, we'll get more revenue coming to the city from there. Performing arts wise, every user of Century 2 Performing Arts, when we were doing the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan, wanted a new modern facility to perform in. Again, not saying get rid of Century 2, but they wanted something new. That provides opportunity for more modernized plays and everything to come to Wichita. Some of those things can happen in Century 2, but if we have the best talent, why not give them the best facilities? That also, arts-wise, brings dollars to our community. The rest of it is kind of up for debate. There's things I would have put in that sales tax that are not. And again, we don't always get what we want. I understand everybody's talked about property tax relief. Wouldn't have been the thing that I put in there, but I get it. It polls really high. Everybody's talking about it. There are people really being hurt. So if that were to pass, the council would then reduce the mill levy 4 or 5 mills, which would give some benefit. I think $120 to $140 for the average on their property tax. Valuations continue to go up, so you won't really see it, you won't feel it, but it could be more and it won't be, just like $14 this year. But again, around the arts and convention piece, that was a big deal. The one benefit that comes from it, and it puts all the pressure on Joseph and the council, is and everything in the CIP for the next 10 years, public safety wise, so fire and police is paid for out of that sales tax. Now council has some money to do some other things, whether that's affordable housing, whether that's catching up on everything else that we care about in the CIP. So like Sleepy Hollow Park, that's 2032, I think, before that gets fixed. Well, if this passes, that might could get bumped up. So you can see investments in parks and everything else. And that'll be up to the council because they have that freed up money. Those three don't really benefit like people think they do.
Right.
Aaron Bastion and Fidelity invest millions into the community every year anyway.
Yeah.
So that's going to continue whether this passes or not. Ben Hutton and Hutton's brand, they continue to invest throughout the state. John Rolfe does the same thing, but as we've all talked about moving Wichita forward and providing other opportunities here, when people travel, where do they go? You know, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, where all of these investments are being made, and we're not doing it here. So for them, it's how do we just move Wichita forward a little bit? We saw in downtown, the city made an investment starting in the brewery years. It was 1-to-1 public-private. Now is for every dollar the public puts in, it's like $4 or $5 private to go in, and downtown is booming. So I think we just want to get that started.
So
Long answer to the
you're
question.
in favor. I mean, that's so helpful to get it, your perspective, right? Because you can't get that from an ad.
Right.
And I didn't know the who's or when it, but.
I'm in favor because of what it frees up. And I've told them if we did it the way I wanted, I would have other stuff in there. But it frees up money to do the things I care about. And I've been very vocal about it, and I'll continue to be. If a round 2 comes out in 7 years, it needs to be engaged at the neighborhood level first. And the community needs to talk about what they want to see, what they demand, what they want to see. There's areas around here without sidewalks. I mean, we need to have those conversations. And then people can see their ideas going into that. And you could still attach it to another big project downtown, but most of that needs to go into the communities.
So why the special election?
Yeah.
Is there a conflict with sales tax on groceries?
Right now it is, so,
So what happens there?
the legislature hasn't changed it. So right now you would have that 1% on groceries if it were to pass. They may take it up and change it this session. But before that was even law, multiple municipalities throughout the state were trying to get them to take that off of groceries. I don't know why they put in the clause that if a city wanted to do a sales tax, it would stay on groceries or not. We tried to get them not to do that, but they didn't listen to us. And we weren't even considering it at the time. We just thought it was bad for municipalities. There are some cities that need to raise the sales tax. And I think that was their way of punishing the city.
Yeah.
Just like the revenue neutral rate. It's a way of letting you know that your valuations are going up, and if the council votes to exceed it, then it makes the council look bad. People don't realize if we exceed it by 10 cents, we have to vote to go above that. So it's just a way to point the finger back at the municipality. So hopefully they change that at the state level. But that will be lobbied on by the council and other municipalities this year.
Citizens could also
Yes, you should.
Yes.
let our representatives know.
Yes, well, not just yours, the whole South Central delegation. There's 54 representatives in the South Central delegation. Let them all know.
So some things that, when Wichita Independent Neighborhoods has got laser focus on, the groceries is a huge thing, because, you know, sale tax is a retro tax. We all, people, progressive, regressive, thank you. So thank you for the words. I'm obviously failing this morning. So, but it's one of those things where when you don't make a ton, you spend a heck of a lot more of your everyday month to month, right? In groceries and all that stuff. And so, yes. But there's a couple other things, the homeless piece, the homeless shelter, currently after 2026, there's no funding for the homeless shelter. What the brand new Park Elementary that went from us, yes, ma'am, went from a school now it is a homeless shelter, which that's a great service that we need for our community. But there are so many ways that we need to do that well, so that the people can actually be served and we're not damaging that area of our city. And there's no funding for that after 26, and this actually gives them a endowment, thank you, sir, that can serve them the long term, which is what we really need. And then some of the other things that just pop up, the fact that they weren't willing to release their data, that's sketch to me, that's sketchy. But I also see that a lot of the things that they want to see for the city's betterment are not kitchen table issues, right? The arts center, I mean, you know, kitchen table, people generally aren't going to an arts thing. The convention center. So, but how does the questions I've asked of my council member, one of my council members, not yet, is dollars. What actual dollars are we missing out because we don't have the spaces? And let's quantify that stuff so we can make a great decision as a city. Because we need to stop being in the, you know, yes, we need to stop just saying, oh, it'll be good for us. No, exactly. Give us the data so we can make a great decision.
I will look through my email to see if I can find it. It's not 2026 numbers, but when we did the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan visit, Wichita did provide those types of numbers of what we were missing out on. And highlighting, we're not going for large conventions competing with larger cities. It's really the mid-level conventions and what we're actually missing out on. And they had a dollar amount attached to that. I'll see if I can find it.
That would be great. That's because that's the thing is a lot of times we're chuck nebulous numbers. You know, this is the amount that the community will get. No. I want to actually, what are the actual booking things? What are the actual dollars we are missing? You know what I mean?
We need to look at booked and what we've missed out on and they know about. And they may not always say the names of that, because some of that is confidential.
Sure.
But I think the other thing is, and I didn't understand this until I was like really absorbed in this. When we think of conventions, I think a lot of people kind of miss what that really is. And even conferences. So the stuff I've done as a council member when I travel, I just go spend money. Like I will go to our conference in this hotel and I'm walking, like when we went to Houston, Papados, all these other restaurants I went to, I'm spending money. Yeah. So, and that was something that Greater Houston didn't even know we were there. But we were spending money. And so in Wichita, it could be there was an IT conference, I think, some years ago, and there was over 500 people that came to Wichita, and most people didn't know about it, but they're all spending money. So
And the medical center that we've got now and the
Yeah.
conferences that could be drawn in by that. I mean, yes, we've got to have the facilities for that. That will actually draw those spaces. But let's get to real numbers, not nebulous pie in the sky stuff, right? That's the, just as far as residents and some of the specific concerns and questions that I've been hearing, those are things that I'm trying to push.
I'll pass that message on too.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Councilman Johnson and Councilman-elect Shepherd. How are you? Shantina Tipton, elected Democratic Chair, Precinct 9, Atchison, Kansas, former Wichita resident and former District 1 Advisory Board member. My question is for you, Councilman-elect Shepherd. Are you in favor of the 1% sales tax?
I am in favor of it because of what it frees up. I am not in favor of the fact that a sales tax is regressive, and that won't come as a surprise to a lot of people. When I was campaigning over the last 19 months, I talked about sales tax. It wasn't popular amongst a lot of people, but the reality is when we lowered the mill levy and virtue signal, in my opinion, to say we want to relieve property taxes, which saved the average homeowner $14 a year, which for me, it's like, that's not much. We also put our city in a very uncompromising position. One of the things that I've been asking in the city is, what is the other option if this fails? Because there is still an option that this fails in March. And the other option is we'll have to make some hard choices. We'll have to cut things, just to be clear. And I also believe our community, particularly working class and poor folks, hurt even more when we cut things. And so I think that is where I'm at. I also believe that $197 million that's freed up over the course of the 7 years of the sales tax, which I believe it will sunset in 7 years, that $197 million has an opportunity to do some remarkable things. That gives each councilman roughly about $4.2 million to do some amazing things in their community if we can all work together to say, where should we allocate these dollars that are going to maximize the impact? So that's why I'm for it, but I also am not ignorant, and I do not believe that this is not a regressive tax. It is. And that's also why I want to work with Mike Hoheisel, council member of District 3, to figure out where is it that we can provide some relief and where is it that we can provide some rebate, particularly for folks who are making under the poverty and or working poor, living paycheck to paycheck. The United Way does an ALICE report, and the ALICE report basically takes a lot of the census data and it tells us essentially where you are. And if you live in this county, if you live in this city, and if you have a household of $65,000, you are working poor.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be looking at those numbers and figuring out how we help those folks, but then also folks who fall below that line.
Thank you. I'm glad to get your perspective because we over in Hutchinson are also facing the 1% sales tax as well. I want to have a perspective. I want to have a district on where everybody stands on these issues.
Thank you, Brad.
I did vote against Lawrence, so.
He did.
I know you did.
Thank you. So I want to say thank you to Councilman Johnson for his service, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do next. And to Councilman Shepherd. So here's my question to this young lady's point. When we talk about whatever monies are there, regardless if the 1% sales tax passes or not, when we talk about the homeless shelter. So on Sundays, I go with this lady named Ida downtown Wichita to feed the homeless. That's like the Lord's Diner and some of the other places, they are closed on Sundays. So anyway, as opposed to just housing them and giving them a lot of blankets and clothing and feeding them. So I asked the homeless people, I said, you know, what if you had your way, what could we really do to help you? And here was their answer. They said they would like a room for computer service to teach them computer skills so that it would help them apply for jobs, etc. So I'm asking my new city councilman that if, you know, whatever funds are available, if you could kind of look into that to provide those computer services. And I know that people like Cox or AT&T, they'd be willing to donate some computers to help with that. So any thoughts on that?
You have my commitment. A lot of you also heard when I was running that our unhoused neighbors has a very, very big part of my heart. I was once unhoused at one point, and I remember what that is like. And I think that we have resources that are available to help. And I love the Cox and AT&T, but also we have the Urban League, who just received not too long ago a major digital grant. And I think that there are more people who need those resources outside of those who are unhoused. There are seniors who want to, freshen up on some of their digital skills as well. And we also know that if you do not have access to digital broadband or even the resources or infrastructure, you're very, very behind.
Yeah.
And so we have to utilize that as a way to prepare our young people for the future jobs that are going to be coming, not just the jobs of today, but the jobs of the future. And then also, when we are experiencing labor shortages, we have to tap into the retired population, our senior population, who still have more to give, and not just write them off as like, you know what, they're done, they're no good for our society. And I think a way to do that is by providing those skills, those digital skills, to be able to support them. And then I thought Parker proudly raised his hand that the Wichita Library would also be on board for that too.
Yes, we also offer the librarian service. You can book an hour with us to work with you one-on-one on any technology, any research question, a job application, any application. We'll sit with you, work with you one-on-one, and you needn't be restricted to that one meeting. We'll work with you on an ongoing basis until you get your need met.
The library is phenomenal, and
Yes.
downtown library has so much technology that you can use, that you can rent, that you can all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so one of the things is getting the information, because there's not just the downtown library, there's also the Voc. Well,
Workforce
there's all,
centers,
the
yeah.
workforce centers, the neighborhood centers, there's all sorts of places where this can happen. It's a matter of getting them educated and comfortable. I mean, whatever, getting them connected, right? With all there's so much that we offer in this city.
You gotta let them bring their dogs with them. I'm serious.
Yeah.
They won't go to a shelter if they can't bring
Yeah,
their.
that's why we built a shelter that allowed animals
Yeah,
a couple of
that
years
is
ago,
so
because we
true.
found that to be a barrier. Senator, Tuesday, you will hear of some funding that the current council and the most recent city manager, I guess, kind of have been working on, and it's finally coming to fruition, where we are going to be able to have people out on the streets as case managers working with our unhoused population to ask them those questions and guide them into those resources. So that'll come up on Tuesday.
One of the challenges I always hear from unhoused is, where do I leave my stuff?
Yes.
And then the second is, even if they were cleaned up, they can't really get a job because they don't have identification, because it's been taken, stolen, lost. So
So we do have the Wichita Municipal ID. That's something that I've been trying to push into the neighborhood resource centers. Right now, you can come to City Hall, first floor, walk in, not a lot of questions asked, and you can take your picture and get your ID same day. The most recent report, I think over 800 people have been in there. I think we've issued over 500.
Wow.
So that's one way we can help there. Second Light also, again, still in the process, but one of the things I saw on the trip to Colorado Springs was their shelter campus actually used addresses there. And they work with local businesses to understand that they'd have an ID with an address to a mailbox there. And even if they resided there in transitional housing, like they actually had an address and it helped them get a job. And they too had a computer center there. So I think all of that is still in the works to help out. And Second Light also does have a place where you can bring your stuff and they clean everything for you. They have a, forget what it's called, but something that kills all the pests. And then some lighting that kills any.
Radiation kind of thing.
Not radiation, but
Irradiation.
Yeah,
Sorry. I
something
just-
like that. And they put that in there, they get it all cleaned up and then they can get their stuff back.
Second Light does have a beautiful concept to protect if someone is 18 or under from some of the substances that other people are on. But what about people who are 18 or under?
We have more work to do. Honestly, we don't have enough shelter in Wichita.
Yeah.
We don't have enough for women and children. We are taking steps with Second Light, but there's a lot more investment that needs to happen there. Like, I keep it straight, we don't have enough.
I'm just sitting here thinking about what she said about the homeless. We shouldn't put the homeless all in one basket. My daughter, who works for KMUW, did a story on the homeless and found that a lot of them and PhDs and beautiful jobs. So it's not just who they are, it's from the top down. Because I have a grandson that makes $15 an hour, has a good job, but you cannot live on $15 an hour. So it goes all the way to Washington, DC. And that's who we need to be fighting. That's why we need to be voting.
Yes.
It's not just here. It goes all the way to Washington, DC.
Mhm.
Yeah, every time we talk about our unhoused neighbors, I just get frustrated with what I see online and everything. Like these folks are demonized and talked about poorly. And this is just everyday folks. People who came across hard times. Many people live paycheck to paycheck. And as we talk about, even the folks who were judging the unhoused folks who won't go to the shelter. And I just challenge people, just ego-wise right now, you fall on hard times and you end up getting kicked out of your house and you gotta live in your vehicle. Are you going to the shelter?
Yeah.
I would.
There are some people who will, but there's other people who are like, I don't need to be in a shelter. And I don't judge them. There are people who have that, and then some people will go, but that's just too much judgment online instead of just help.
As a 100% disabled veteran, VA offers services for veterans that are unhoused. And a lot of veterans don't know that that's offered. I know that for a fact. I've been working in my prior past, working with especially combat vets for my PTSD issues and stuff. And a lot of our veterans don't know that they qualify for the VA system. And it's phenomenal because it saves life. I know in New York City that the VA, say the VA either in Manhattan or in the Bronx, actually has a setup in the east side of Manhattan strictly for homeless vets. And I don't know what the facilities here are offered in Wichita, but I know there's plenty of federal funding. And a lot of guys that are homeless are veterans, and they just don't know. So I don't know if that helps at all.
Facility wise, I'm not 100%. I've been with the VA for a while, but I know there's navigators to help, and then United Way is trying to help with that. Now it's a functional zero balance. Not there yet, but there's efforts to try to.
I think it's, if not available through an actual facility, I know there's a program set up through HUD Vashti. So.
Or yeah,
even
particular
if,
housing.
even if they can't get into an actual facility, you can get like a subsidy into housing.
We just have to do a better job of reaching the folks where they are.
It's what I get in general with a lot of things in Wichita is that there are a lot of fingers and not many fists. And so what we get are a lot of wishes and duplications of efforts. And so what we need are, there are a lot of chiefs in the kitchen. And so what we kind of need are some sort of centralization and to pare down so that we're not wasting so much. There's a lot of wasted effort. And if we could somehow humble ourselves a little bit and be able to take orders from each other, we don't all have to wear the chief hat at the same time. We can submit, we can follow each other, some people can be Gal Friday some days, and we can share the labor, the grunt work. Everybody's got great ideas, but sometimes we need researchers. Sometimes we need to really pare down so that there's not so much waste. I really believe in these rooms, but the wheel just kind of, it can't all fall on you guys. Right? Does anybody understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Once we come out, you have to somehow cut the fat. The fat is so incredibly wasteful.
Not even in government, you're not referring to government necessarily.
I'm just talking about us in this room. There's too much passion. There's too much desire to want to do the right thing. There's a ton of respect in here. There's a lot of love for each other. There's a lot of love for our town. And there's a lot of vision for what we know can happen here. And there's commitment. We have a track record. Maybe someone can speak to that. I don't wanna commandeer.
No, you're right.
Forgive me.
No, we particularly in the nonprofit sector in Wichita, I believe last time it was almost close to 4,000 nonprofits in Sedgwick County alone.
That's a lot.
So we look at these duplicated services, right? So for example, I come from the youth mentorship realm of nonprofit. There are 50 million organizations in youth mentorship, right? We can maximize our impact and reach those kids in a way that's more impactful if we all say, how do we come together? And you're good at this, and you're good at this, and you're good at this. How are we working together?
Let's consolidate.
Same thing with foster care. And there are many barriers to that, but there are agencies that are trying to eradicate that issue or at least solve some of that. I'll be actually working with our mayor on that issue particularly. She seems to be very passionate about it. But part of the barrier is that there are some laws that prohibit some of these agencies from working together. Because they can't expose information of the foster youth that they have within their system to others. So like in the homelessness system, how there's an HMIS system and all providers can go in there and they can look through that data, they can cross-reference. That doesn't exist for our foster care agencies. And so we have to work with our senator in Topeka, which is why it's important. She will tell you to go testify, to actually show up, to make sure that we are not just doing it once a year during Black Legislative Day, but also going consistently and testifying virtually so that folks understand that when we are crafting these policies that don't speak well to the county or to the city, we're creating major barriers that make it very difficult to actually serve these students. And listen, if we don't eradicate those issues, then the cycle of poverty, the cycle of homelessness, the cycle of violence just continues to grow.
It continues, and I almost see that as paramount to any of the other work that we do, because again, we're just splaying out and money's just spewing out everywhere, just leaking resources and effort.
Is it ego? Is it ego and money, all these not-for-profits? I mean, I don't know, heads of not-for-profits, how much they take in salary. I'd like to understand why there's so many and what's driving that. Seems like everybody.
It just depends on what the nonprofit is, but I think to Rochelle's point, it's more
Control.
having the right person convene everyone and talk to them. That doesn't always happen. Like the COC works great. There's a lot of nonprofits there, but not everybody knows about the COC and who's involved in that. We had a homelessness task force. And that was kind of when I said to the mayor when she brought up the second light in the workshop, I was like, if we really want to deal with homelessness, we need to convene everybody. And it need not be us saying anything other than learning what everyone's doing, what are the gaps. And if everyone in the room is hearing gaps, somebody can figure out how to fill some of those gaps. The public can hear that as well. And then and if we're not doing that, we're not really addressing the issue. We'll continue to have that. So it's not always an ego, but in those spaces, you will have people with egos who want to be seen as the savior who did something. Those folks just need to chill. Everybody gets some shine, but I think we haven't really convened that yet and really set out kind of like what we did, and this wasn't super public, but with 29th and Grove, we convened all the healthcare professionals. I acknowledged in the first meeting, I don't know anything about healthcare in this way. You all are the experts. You all already serve the community. This is a problem. We need a solution. And I shut up. Ryan Beatty shut up. And they talked. And they talked about a bunch of stuff I did not understand. But after a while, a plan began to emerge, and they were the ones who did it. And I think when it comes to homelessness, we can convene it. We have a challenge. Most of you know what that challenge is. Most of you work in that area. And then we as electeds can shut up. People can talk through what they're doing and figure those gaps out. And then it's our job then to support wherever the gap is. How do we support that as well as the overall? Miss Evelyn, because I don't want you to.
Ooh. All over the place. I had so many questions. My first one was, why were you opposed? Was this the city manager that you were opposed to, or was that an incorrect statement?
Was this the manager? I was opposed to the process.
Oh, it didn't read like that. Okay.
So Dennis, I think Dennis is a good guy. He's the city manager. He was and I told him this, so it's not a secret. He was my number 2 choice. Yeah. My number 1 choice was Dante.
Thank you. Why did you withdraw? I know you're not at liberty to say.
Not at liberty to say everything, but I will say that the process just had some issues. And there were some interventions in that process that I didn't agree with. And some people have spoken at the council to kind of highlight where Dante was ranked. And there was just some interference. I don't know if it'll ever come out. If it does, you know exactly what I mean, but I didn't agree with the process. And when I say that, because there were some people involved in the process who took offense to that. I think most of the people involved did everything the right way for the right reasons. But some of the folks of the elected body began to interfere.
They didn't want Dante.
Can't say.
They began to interfere.
That's a yes. He was fighting hard.
A salary increase or something. Okay, another issue. I'm sorry, y'all could come back track it. You said that you were in Texas and you were spending money. Do you have a budget that's allotted to you, or were you spending our money, your money?
It's technically both, so we get a per diem when we travel. If I exceed the per diem, I don't get reimbursed for that, so that would just be me. But technically, all my money is your money because I get paid by all the voters.
Yeah.
But yes, we get a per diem when we travel per day, and I forget what that number was. It went up a little bit because of inflation. I think it's like $80 a day or something like that.
Well, you're not eating that much, I know.
So I can serve. I'll go get that free breakfast at the hotel.
Yeah.
And then I don't eat lunch unless it's provided at the conference, and that leaves me enough for a decent dinner. But in DC, it's a chicken wing or something else.
Well, to that point, to your point, I think it's really important for everybody to know this. Council members are paid $57,000 a year. They are considered part-time. They can start, they qualify for retirement year 7, which means you have to run for a second term. And you get health insurance.
And I wanted you to speak to your being unhoused, because I think, like she said, we put them all in one basket.
100%.
And it's so many different reasons. And then your priorities change when you're unhoused. And so I just wanted you to speak to that.
Yeah. So I was young. I was between the ages of 10 and 12.
Oh, I thought you were an adult.
Nope, I was an adult. My parents divorced after 16 years of marriage. They went their separate ways. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, right? We ended up in a shelter for long periods of time, 2 years. But I was going to school, to and from school, getting washed up in restaurants and going back to the shelter, sometimes sleeping in cars. And those are, so while I was young, those traumatic experiences stick with you throughout your entire life. Research, data, psychology, it all says it, right? And so the reality is a lot of children who experience homelessness, a lot of children who are in the foster care system, the odds are stacked against them that it's very difficult to graduate college, attend college, and do all of those things. And so my whole thing is we've got to be proactive. And Councilmember Johnson said it best. It's important we focus on those who are unhoused, but we also have to focus on the folks who are one paycheck away. And so it's about being proactive. This is why I oppose the encampment ordinance. I think the encampment ordinance is putting the cart before the horse. Why clean up the encampments and there are no resources or not enough resources to actually help our unhoused members reintegrate back into society?
And it's an eyesore, but it's just like they say when an elderly person like me, if I have to go into a nursing home,
that's right.
So I lose my house and I lose everything that has been important to me. So it's the same situation. I know it's messy, it doesn't look pretty, but these are their belongings.
Then there's a better way. There's a better way, and that better way is if you want to clean up the encampments because they are an eyesore, I can say, yeah. I can also agree that there's some economic disadvantages to having encampments all. Yeah, I can say that with all the compassion and empathy in my heart. But I also believe that if you're going to clean up these encampments and you're going to take away their belongings, you better have resources available, wraparound case management services to support these folks, to give them the help that they need. And I don't care who you are and what you believe, the data's clear. We don't have that right now. So why are we doing this?
So what's the solution?
The solution is Tuesday, we are taking a step in the right direction. And I applaud the current council and the outgoing city manager because there will be caseworkers that will be going around, that will be helping guide folks through, and they will sit in the housing department. And the housing department already does a lot of this work. What I will tell you is what I've learned during orientation. Our housing department is doing a lot of our departments are doing a lot with not enough capacity, but they are doing a lot.
Okay, but you say out on the streets, so are they going under the bridges and?
Yes, yep.
I think the other thing, all of this is systemic and we miss different pieces of it. So through the housing work I was doing, the reform piece, I would meet people who would get evicted, could potentially be homeless, and some of them went that route briefly, and I try to get them connected with the COC. But what I learned is one major gap is second month support.
Right.
So there's money to get you a deposit, there's money to get you into an apartment, and if you don't find a job within really 2 weeks, because your first paycheck is usually 3 weeks off, you can get kicked out for not paying that next month. And there's only one program, at least at the time, that supported a second month. But if you don't have a second month worth of rent, you might be back in the streets. So then we picked you off the street, and that's great, and we celebrated that, we put you back. So that's one of those gaps. I talked to somebody about trying to make a large investment into a fund for that. Hadn't happened yet, but I'm gonna keep pushing on them. But there's just gaps like that too. So even before we get to an encampment, like there's systemic things we need to change to try to keep people from getting to be homeless in the first place.
You said they're gonna have caseworkers that check, are they gonna be paid people?
They are going to be paid.
Well, if they're gonna be paid, how are you gonna be measuring that what you're actually doing is helping? So that's my point. How do you measure that somebody is getting off the streets and staying off the streets and not coming back in a month or two?
Yeah.
So are there measurements like that in place to make sure or not make sure, but at least see if it's working and try something else?
So that's a good question for a council member to ask on Tuesday when the housing department. However, yes, I can give you a short answer. Yes, it's a pilot program. So it's grant funded for the first year. And then the housing department is working on match funding to make sure it's in the second year. Again, we talked about budget deficit, right? And how important it is for us to make sure that we are not in a budget deficit so we can have some of these dollars to be able to support some of these programs like this, and making sure that they're not just a 1-year pilot program or a 2-year pilot program, but they're sticking around for the longevity. And briefly speaking with the housing department, yeah, so they'll go out, they'll monitor, they'll take the information, they'll make sure that they're working with them, they'll keep track of where their encampment site is in terms of where they are mapped out, and they'll guide them through the process of what resources are available for them. And then hopefully go back out, and hopefully they're still in that same area if they choose not to seek those resources on day one. And it won't be on day one when they choose to seek those resources. But the point is to establish a relationship with these unhoused neighbors, to build a level of trust, and to then guide them into those resources. The HOT team will tell you too, which is the homeless outreach team for the Wichita PD. One of the reasons why they are so frustrated by a lot of our houseless services being either stretched thin or not available at all, it's because they work for months with our unhoused neighbors to build trust and relationship. And then it can be month 1, they say, no, I'm good, I don't trust you. Month 2, they say, no, thank you. Month 3, no. Month 4, they're like, I'm finally ready. But by the time they're ready, there are no resources available, right? And so it's putting a strain on even the folks who are out there every single day doing this work. And so I think that data will also tell us that too.
And will it be published? I want to see that there's already a plan to measure the data that they're doing. Because I know it's not going to work in a month, 2, and probably not in a year, but I would think after a year of monitoring and talking and somebody ought to be, there ought to be some type of percentage.
I'm going to take a note to make sure I ask Sally to make sure that data is public when it's
already working.
There's an app called Care Portal, and it's heavily funded by people, but also philanthropists that donate heavily. And if you go on to Care Portal, you can actually see not who the person is, you can kind of see the general area of the person. Could be a mom who's about to lose her car or needs funding. And when I click on it, you would be surprised at how that need has already been met. So that could be something that you could utilize.
And Linden Park.
Parker was first.
Parker then Angela.
Okay, so you mentioned the endowment for Second Life. So has there been any discussion about how else this money would be used to address homelessness?
That endowment was just for the operation. That's been a big challenge there. They need, at the moment, $4 million a year to operate. So that endowment is $125 million that would be endowed, and then the interest paid would be what supports Second Life going forward. And that's just operations. There's some additional dollars. I don't have that breakdown in front of me that support other parts of Second Life, but the operation remains.
So no discussion has been given to expanding the homeless outreach team or any other intervention?
I've been saying that for years. They need more than 4 members. But with the navigators coming to help, that will help them. And I think if they won't get more members, they just need more supports around them. They need to be able to find somebody who trust them and get them the resources immediately. Because that's where you'll make or break. Been 4 months building trust, like Joseph said, and then I'm thinking I can go somewhere, but I can't. And if every place they call, there's no beds, there's no other resources, now it makes it harder to keep that trust. So they need more supports as far as people going out with them, or people they can call, or spaces they can take from. Angela.
So my apologies, I came in late, so perhaps it's already been discussed. But as I'm hearing some of the questions that have been posed, it's putting me in mind of Project Hope, which it sounds like people may not be aware of. So Project Hope was a grant-funded City of Wichita project that brought together addressing homelessness, specifically focused downtown. That a number of outcomes came from Project Hope, was just ended September 30th of this past year. One of which is a documentary film called Hope in the Heartland, which talks quest to end homelessness, which really captures the lived experience of homelessness, where a lot of those misconceptions that we talked about, a lot of the misconceptions regarding what's happening with service providers, who's involved, what that reality is if you fall into homelessness and who falls into homelessness, is addressed with real to life examples and stories for people who are currently in this community experiencing homelessness. That's available for free on YouTube. And the purpose of that film was to educate the community and provide the community with a tool to be able to understand the dynamics of what's happening and share and talk about it as collectives, as a group, in your home, with your family, just for yourself. So I wanted to lift and highlight that's on the City of Wichita's YouTube page. I was one of the producers of that film, so it does exist. Please, if you haven't seen it or are not aware of it, take a look at it. Hear the resources and the realities of those who are experiencing homelessness. Also with that project, Project Hope, it served as a example of how to work collaboratively together. So it brought together different stakeholders. I also served on the Homelessness Task Force, which was a 2-year effort. I don't want the room to lose hope, to think that there's just nothing happening as a collective. There are things happening as a collective. Everybody's not out there rolled just doing their own thing. There is some collective effort. Out of that effort came the MAC and the relationships that we're able to move and advance the MAC. So don't feel like everybody's doing their own thing on the road and we're not making any progress. We're absolutely making progress, but there is absolutely still more work to be done. And the lack of resources, the need for resources across all levels is paramount as well. But I don't want the room to lose the awareness that there are collective collaborative efforts happening and there are resources to help tell the story and help you all to share the story. But everybody's not aware of it. So it's a communication challenge as well.
You won a big award, didn't it?
It won an Emmy.
That's right.
A regional Emmy.
I was gonna say, you've been a little humble.
Yeah.
It did. But it highlights the work happening right here in Wichita. Cool. So please check that out and utilize that tool as well.
Lori and then Trish.
Okay, you both know that I was at all of the slumlord meetings. And thank you, Councilmember Johnson, for getting that, most of it passed, some of it passed. The question that I heard from a lot of people when we got outside was, so when is that fund going to be in place? In case you weren't up on it, the council put in place like doubling of fines for slumlords. And those additional fines are going to go into the fund to then help people who, if they, you know what happens if you report, right?
You get evicted.
You get evicted. This is going to help those people to find new housing so they don't end up on the street with their children, with their families. Where, how, is that, I mean, this probably hasn't even started yet. Is it supposed to start after the first of the year?
Yeah, it was, so implementation was gonna be 2026, early 2026. There were a few policy things that were on hold because it didn't look like it may pass for a while. So once it got passed, staff went back to finalizing policies on that. So there's two parts of it. Until we start getting fines, there's no fines.
That's what I wanted to know.
There's also potential to put another docket fee on court stuff. That's been talked about. It hasn't been decided yet, but that would basically keep a fund going outside of fines. Because the hope is that people will stop doing it and maybe there's no money coming.
And then you won't need it.
Right.
Yeah.
But the docket fees will make sure there's always money available for that. And I can't remember the amount of things. Whatever it was, it was generated. Again, not finalized, something that a company knows of, but that fund I thought was a great idea. It's absolutely what people need. But again, the challenge on eviction is we still need to partner with the county on eviction court to see how some people don't really deserve that. How can you slow that down? I mean, kicking somebody out in 3 days doesn't give them enough time for anything. And then we still have the arbitrary barriers, which I get, because I had a few property managers talk to me afterwards and just saying, we're not doing this to hurt. We just want to make sure if you get into a place you can afford it. I get it. But if you can afford Emory Gardens at $950 a month, and you are also renting for $950 a month, obviously this person can afford it. It may not be the easiest thing for them to afford, but they can, and they'll never get out of something terrible if there's these arbitrary barriers that stop them from getting it. That fund would help. I think the challenge is just going to be how quickly it can help.
Yes.
And then tying into some of the resources we talked about, second month support and all of that.
Yeah, that was what I wondered, because I know there was a little bit of talk that I had heard about maybe pulling funds from somewhere to be able to have that fund set up so people could take advantage of it sooner rather than later, because there's already a need.
And Councilman, if I could say, so to connect the city council local to the state. So I, along with Representative Leah Howell, we're working on legislation that will address evictions. So as opposed to that lifetime look back, just like your credit score, after 7 years it falls off. But I'm hoping that the city will support our legislation to narrow it down to maybe a year or two look back, but still allow people to explain how they got in that situation, because COVID put a lot of people where they were evicted, and landlords won't rent to you if you have that eviction record. So we are going to work on that on the state level.
Leah House was actually in one of those meetings, so I got to visit with her on that. She told me about that.
Dude, this guy's hand's been up for like 30 minutes. Like, no, I just wanted to let it know this guy's been trying to ask questions like the last 30 minutes. So maybe we can hear this dude.
He just ignores counter.
Oh, that was.
When we're talking about systemic stuff, because what I really what you're talking about, I think is one of the big things in our city. We have a ton of people who are doing so much good work. We have a ton of people. We are a hope-filled community, and a lot of people doing good hard work. One of the lacks that I have seen, and that I've talked to city council people about, is some of the committees that the city has set up are a lot of talk and not a lot of action. So there are a couple committees that actually spend money and have votes and do MAPC, parks commit, right? But there are a lot of committees that the city has set up, and I think that's an opportunity where the city can actually set up a not saying we take over continuum of care, but like a continuum of care, set up these committees, but actually give them authority. Yes. Because if we have got a lot of good people on these committees, but when you sit there I sat there on a couple of years and we didn't vote, not actually once. In 2 years, we had one vote. And then I found out that by our bylaws, we were supposed to vote on anything before the city council person touched it. That's right. Didn't happen, once. It happened once. But there are 5 things that City Councilman Johnson voted on while I was sitting on that committee, and we never heard peep about them. I'd come to Dabs and go, so we think this, and he's like, you, thank you for your input, but really I've got the bigger scoop. And we're not using the people in our committees correctly. We are, and I said, hey, to Councilmember Johnson, to Tan, and to manager, we should do this differently. And they said it's not going to change, but it's going to change if we want it to change. So if we actually give our committees and our people who are already doing the work and serving actual authority, like we let the 45-day committee of the homeless group, right? They actually came and spoke themselves to city council with their recommendations, and that was noted how unique that was. Shouldn't be. We should be hearing from our committees, from our DABs, they should have more authority and more teeth than they do now, because we lose, people don't want to sit in meetings forever and never actually get anything accomplished. We lose people who are doers by holding them back and not listening to them effectively.
I think your persuasive argument worked. So coming up in Councilmember Shepherd's term, there's going to be a reform of all of our citizen advisory boards. They will be looking at some combinations of some around issues, so getting out of the silos we were talking about, if there's similar things to work on. There was some proposal of removal of some boards that may have been like, that one won't be, but boards that have the same experience as you did. And then how do you give teeth to those boards and make sure that citizens have more real input and something that is a real vote and real influence on what council does. So that should be coming up, say first quarter. But I have the report, like I saw like what's being recommended. I just knew I wasn't voting on it. So it will be Councilmember Shepherd. But
well, I say thank you, because nobody's, and this is something I'm talking to the school board about all the time. Nobody circles back and says to the people who've been, complaining, right? Advocating, whatever you want to say, right?
Yeah.
But nobody circles back and said, we heard you and here's what we're doing. So I'm thinking I am landing on deaf ears all the time. So thank you for your feedback to say that things are happening.
we do need to do a better job of that. I own that. I remember a conversation I had with Jane Burns about crosswalks, and she had been fighting for years and making noise about it. And I remember seeing that $1 million in the budget. And the next time I saw her, I was like, well, it worked. We got $1 million here. She's like, nobody told me. So we do need to do a better job of that and reporting back to boards and people who.
But I'm sure I wasn't alone. It's not like my squeaky wheel did the thing. I'm just saying, thank you.
Never know, it might be.
Thank you for circling back and letting me know.
My question's for Joseph. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to kind of sit in on the city court system.
Yeah, I had orientation with them and was blown away by a lot that they're doing.
Yeah, I had a son who got into a little bit of trouble with the law, and so then I had some opportunities to go with him all the times that he went. And one of the things I've noticed, and I don't know if you were able to pick up on it, so my son, he has learning disabilities, and he was given forms to fill out. And by golly, if I hadn't been there, he would have had them all wrong. He probably wouldn't have qualified for the public defender. He's an adult, right? So I wasn't going to bail his ass out. But anyway,
amen, mama.
So he wouldn't have qualified. God help me. The judge, because I was schooling him, or before he went up, I said, ask for public defender. When he was given the opportunity, he said he wanted to represent himself. And so I said, no, you don't. But anyway, there are a lot of folks with learning disabilities that I feel like go through there. They're public defenders, do the best they can, but they're running in and out. Are there programs that can sit in there and help these folks? Because my son was lucky because he had me.
Yep.
Not everybody has that. And then I just see that it becomes a spiral. There's a lot of forms. I'm a smart woman, and some of those, like, oh, I could answer it this way or that way. I'm not exactly sure. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention from a personal experience.
Yes, and thank you. So when I started campaigning, one of my first meetings was with Kansas Legal Services and the Wichita Bar Association. And one of the recommendations Councilmember Johnson had for me after I was elected is start just writing down everything you hope to accomplish. You won't accomplish them all, but write down those things. And of those things, top of that list is sort of a legal clinic to utilize Kansas Legal Services and Wichita Bar Association. I think there's been a provision in the law where retired attorneys can now give a certain amount of hours pro bono to be able to support individuals who cannot afford an attorney. But what that does is it guides them through the legal process of what their rights are. So let's say in the case of your son, maybe it was a traffic situation, but perhaps there's an eviction situation, perhaps there's a domestic violence situation. So when I was student body president at Wichita State University, we actually hosted this legal clinic, and it was utilized. I mean, we had to turn people away because there were so many people who wanted to get help but didn't have access or the finances to actually seek that expert help. And so what we do know is that if we provide the resource, not only can we help people, we can educate them on their rights. And that's something that I'm hoping to roll out by the end of the first year of my term for people just like your son, but people all across the city who they want to get help, but they don't know where to start.
Even I would just encourage you to think about in the moment, because he was given that form right then and there, told to fill it out, to bring it back up. And so there's your opportunity, and the judge, oh my gosh, these judges, they had to do so much clerical work on their own. I was pretty blown away. But anyway, and then she had to make the determination, but just in the moment, assistance, I think, is where people slip through.
Yeah, I agree. And Mark Bennett has been very public and adamant that the state fund more public defenders because they don't.
Good, yeah.
So he's been on record and asked him today to still say it. And he's highlighted it's not fair. He has unlimited resources. He's given computers to public defenders, and prosecutors don't really do that. So
yeah.
He's continued to say it, and hopefully the legislature will do something to give more money to those offices.
I want to say something.
Short question. On your agenda for Tuesday, public agenda, would you be willing to push to have the settlement made public? Pulled off the consent agenda?
I think it will be. I know three numbers you can talk about. So
200,000 is not even a slap on a wrist.
Correct. Do we not know more?
I can't get deeply into that. But what I will say is when details come out, it actually is not all Genesis. And there's a bigger case that will come from that.
Okay.
Or much more.
So I think the city did a very poor job of monitoring that situation as it developed, which is true of a lot of cases.
Yeah, I mean, that one specifically was, there's a yes I can give to that, and then some of it is when you cut off giving people an opportunity. And some of the challenge was the payments that people are referencing were also during COVID when everything was shut down. So yes, you need to pay. Also was there no revenue.
Thank you.
So there's some complicated.
Oh, I'm
But yeah,
many people, well, that's the problem. We don't know details.
it'll get pulled
All
out.
the details.
And some of us don't even know what the heck you're talking
I
about
work.
It's the Genesis settlement for the ice rink.
for the ice rink. Okay, I thought it went back to that.
Yeah. And it will just kind of slide on and nobody will know about it because it doesn't say Genesis settlement, it just says settlement case.
So all of our consent agenda items is say a settlement, and it's either us settling or the other person settling, and then it's in the details what it is. But yes, that will definitely.
Thank you.
Eric.
Yeah, appreciate you guys all being here. Thank you, Councilmember Johnson, Councilmember Shepherd. Good to see you guys again. Obviously, I love seeing democracy at work here. Your work already in the community now as you come into this seat, the coordination and collaboration in government. If communities are going to advocate to push things forward, this is key. And democracy at work with all of you showing up and voicing your concerns. As we've heard, there's a number of issues from homelessness to wage growth and the minimum wage to, I like what you mentioned, and that's where my question is going. I won't just stand here and pontificate on, just on all the things that our communities need. But you mentioned one thing that's important, federal advocacy. All of our communities, and I'm born and raised in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, but as I travel the state, I see the same things. We're talking about homelessness, we're talking about property taxes, we're talking about revenue neutral, all of these difficult concepts that government has to deal with and find a way to agree on, but they all come from a place of a lack of resources. So when we were talking about solutions, you mentioned one. At the federal level, there was a program called Adopt that brought digital infrastructure into communities so that seniors and job seekers and students could access the internet. What else, as I try to go to the United States Senate and advocate for communities like ours, what else can your federal leaders do? You mentioned Washington, D.C. What can the Senate do to support the work that you're doing locally and to support the work that Senator Fauci-Doe is doing at the state level? What's that third piece, and what can I do to be a great advocate for Sedgwick County and for District 1?
That's a great question. You want to go first? I have my answer, but.
So I would start with definitely meeting locally with agency directors like Sally Stang. So there's a lot of reforms that I think should happen.
Yeah.
Some of those are policy based and not actual law, so policies can be changed. So when you look at, one of the things I just said was second month funding, looking at that, how to support some of the other efforts here locally. If you can get on any type of appropriations, what they call now congressionally directed spending,
right,
shifting those funds here for various projects that we have. And I think more collaboration around what is affordable housing.
Oh, yeah.
And how do you fund those gaps? Do you have home ownership aid? That's down payment assistance. But what are some other things we can do to get houses to be supported? Some people look at that as not just housing choice vouchers, and it's not. How do we get first time home buyers a quality house? There's some gaps in building and those buildings. But I think sitting down talking about that, and you look at the economy, how can you give more training? So we've got like Dr. Utah, and if you go with IR and trying online things, but how can you get more funding into that? For not every kid is gonna go get a 4-year degree, and some adults don't have that, might need some certification. So if you need to go to an 8-week class, is there supportive services? Can that be funded? And if so, then fund that so you can have daycare class, so you can get that, maybe some type of 1 or 2 month support until you get into that next career. But I would say it's really sitting down, talking through that with local leaders, local agency heads, and then seeing where those gaps can be filled. I will say, and it's different on the Senate level. Your opponent doesn't always support this, but on the congressional level, our congressperson does not agree with congressionally directed spending. So the only person that really helped us out is Senator Grant. And so if we had another senator that was looking at that and could kind of do more than what our congressman is doing right now, that helps us out quite a bit.
I hear you loud and clear. And at that level, you have policy and you have the purse. And if our senators and congresspeople are not fighting to bring the purse back, then it falls on the back of residents. And then you have to decide between property taxes and services. So I agree with you. I appreciate you bringing that up. And yes, we need to go advocate for federal dollars to come in and fill some of these gaps so it's not breaking the back of our community. So thank you.
Yeah. Very similar, I would say, making sure that you're advocating for the Homestead Act and LIHTC tax credits that get passed down to the state legislature, and the state legislature gets to then divvy those funds up to county and local municipalities. But what that does is it creates opportunity for developers to get incentives to build for our veterans, for those with disabilities, and for folks who are seniors on fixed income. But it starts at the congressional level, right? And so making sure that we have an advocate there. Councilmember Johnson spoke about Senator Jerry Moran, who has been a great champion for bringing some opportunity back. And one of the things that I would like to see done is making sure we're expanding the flights that we have out of Wichita, out of Kansas City. Wichita State created an I-35 corridor program where folks from all across the country, if you live on that I-35 corridor, you can go to Wichita State at in-state tuition. But they want to go back and still visit their family right during the holidays, but we've got to have the flights to be able to get them there. And we want to make sure that they're safe flights too. And so making sure air traffic control is doing their job to making sure that when they get in the plane and they go, that they're able to return to their family safe, and they're able to return back to their destination safe as well. And then the last thing I would say is making sure that there's a conversation about student debt relief. There are a lot of people, particularly Black and brown and first generation college students, who are white, first generation low-income college students who have a ton of student debt, that no matter what type of job you land, you just can't make it. And so, some people invest in homes, some people invest in business, some of us invest in our education, and that's the investment that we've made to try to break the cycle of generational poverty. I'm one of those. And so I think it's important to make sure that we look at how many years you need to work in the nonprofit sector to be able to qualify to erase some of those debts. Councilmember Johnson has given 8 years of his life to public service. I would think that he should qualify for debt relief, right? Completely. But I think that we need to look at some of those policies and laws happening at the federal level as well, and not disband the Department of Education.
Totally, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. On a couple of those points, I love the fact that we're having this conversation. So the current administration just put many of those loans back into repayment and took the handcuffs off and said creditors are going to go after students. That is unconscionable. That we're going to bankrupt people over getting an education. So I totally agree with you there. I do want to give my kudos to Senator Moran. I'm not running against Senator Moran, by the way. That would be a fool's errand. I'm running against the other guy. But the reality is Senator Moran has been very active in advocating for FAA and really for the aviation industry. And the guy I'm running against hasn't. So I'm excited to go do that. I do want to touch on that last piece, though. And this is what I'm most excited about is that policy, housing policy. I'm a commercial real estate developer, but I'm also a community-minded developer. And I have to use everything from LIHTC to investment tax credits to another policy called opportunity zones to get things done. I want to flag that for this community. Opportunity zones have a lot of benefactors and detractors, irregardless of what you think of them. In the current administration, it's a tool. And it is not going anywhere. This administration, whether we like it or not, has made that tool permanent. A lot of tools are being taken away, and we need access to all the tools in the toolbox if we are going to build housing. And so what people don't realize is that the OBBA, the one big beautiful to the one big ugly bill, depending on how you think of it, did make that program permanent, but there is still a level of advocacy that must be done in this room. There are 212 eligible low-income census tracts across the state of Kansas. The governor's office this summer only gets to select about 53 of them. So only 25% of the eligible areas will ultimately be selected for that tool. I am encouraging communities that want to ensure that there are tools available for developers to build housing, to do everything that Councilman Shepherd said, which is make sure that there's LIHTC, make sure that there's funding. But I would also encourage you to advocate to the governor to make sure that you are included in the opportunity zone maps, because that is one of the only tools left in this administration to try to drive dollars into low-income neighborhoods like the one that I grew up in and some of the ones that are right here in this district. So appreciate you for that opportunity to discuss. And of course, we'll work together for the next 4 to 8 years, I hope. So thank you guys.
So thanks for being here.
Yep.
So I heard a lot about homelessness today. I felt like 80% of the meeting been about homelessness. So people in my demographic, we don't sit around talking about homelessness. We sit around talking about like whether we want to stay in Wichita, where the talent is going, things like that. So I want to know like what are their plans or programs that are already available for people 30 and younger that want to stay in Wichita, but they're considering leaving because of the economic conditions here.
There's not enough. I mean, I would argue that, and if you don't want to drink, there's definitely not enough. And what's great is that Wichita is a place where the entrepreneurial spirit is alive because there's not enough. But we are also losing talent. We're losing industry because we don't have a lot for that age demographic. So one of the things that I've learned when I worked with Kansas Department of Commerce about 2 years ago, it was essentially, we were courting businesses to say, come and check out Wichita. One of the first things they ask is, what do you have here to keep my employees? Not just in terms of housing, but in terms of like quality of life and in a social setting. And the reality is that we need to do better. And I think that that's where we need to invest economically. A lot of people are talking about third places these days, which is the concept of where can we go? Where it's, if I want to drink, I can drink. If I don't want to drink, I don't need to drink. But it's a place where a community is coming together to socialize. And that's the way forward. Revolutia is kind of like a similar model of a third space where they're taking those shipping containers that it's ideally a little bit of everything for everybody. If you want to go to a bookstore, it's right there. If you want to go get your hair cut, it's there. If you want to go to a bar, it's there. And you don't have to leave that centralized place. And so how do we build that, not just in downtown, but particularly how do we have that economic investment in areas like Northeast Wichita, where the student population is already there per Wichita State University, or by Newman or Friends, et cetera. And I think that that's going to be a conversation of how we bring developers in to invest and to, quite frankly, take that risk, but most importantly, engage young professionals and young people to ask them what they want and actually carry through, and not just say, what do you want? And only give them 20% of what they want. Let's ask them what it is that they want that's going to keep them here, and then do it. Today, we actually have an HBCU event happening at the Boys and Girls Club at 2:00. So if any of you all know of any young people, perhaps you know of people who are in college, Wichita State actually has a program where if you're a student at Wichita State University, we will allow you to go and be a student at an HBCU and pay the tuition rate at Wichita State. If you know anything about private colleges, they're expensive, right? So to be able to do that at Wichita State through the National Student Exchange Program is great. But what that does is it allows our young people from this area to go and experience a culture somewhere else. And I want them to come back, right? To be able to say, here's what they're doing there that we're not doing here. And here's where we can build. I think we need to expose our young people to those opportunities. And my hope is to be able to do that through the local municipality route, but also by working with some of the nonprofit organizations here too. So, and if you have any ideas, Antar, please let me know. I want to hear that. I'm 32. So I want to be here and I can tell you firsthand, I don't always want to go out and drink, right? But chances are about 75% of the time, if I'm out, you're gonna see me with old fashioned in my hand, because that's the social setting that is built here. But we've got to do better, and we've got to have more, particularly for families who have young children too. Not everybody wants to go to Exploration Place. It's a great place. The investment happening there is remarkable. Not everybody's going to make it downtown. Not everybody wants to go to Exploration Place. So as we build these opportunities and amenities, they have to exist beyond downtown.
I wanted to get this young man's name because I'd never heard of you, but then you said Wyandotte County. That's why, because we kind of live.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for letting me do the commercial. I'm Eric Murray. I'm running for the United States Senate. I'm born and raised in Wyandotte County, but I'm traveling all over this state to represent communities like ours. So thank you.
So does that cover Kansas City, Kansas? Is that
Kansas City,
Wyandotte?
Kansas is Wyandotte. Yes.
Okay, I have to go there. She doesn't follow politics, but she will vote for the right person.
Okay, great.
Your name?
Eric Murray. I'm the newest kid. To be fair, there are other candidates in the race. I'm the newest candidate, so I've only been in the race about 30 days. I wanted to make sure that the local politics matter. And we had all of these issues that you faced here in Wichita, we faced in Kansas City, Kansas. You know, everything from criminalizing homelessness to property taxes and revenue neutral, and trying to make us think we have to decide between services and keeping our properties. So all of that played out. And out of respect to that process and the work that these gentlemen are doing, I wanted to wait until we got our local politics sorted to make sure that now these folks are going to do it at the local level. Obviously, your state senator was here. And now let's turn our attention to DC for 26 and figure out how DC can help us too. So thank you for asking that.
You bring some cards?
Yes, ma'am. I would not be very good if I didn't. So I do have some hands up. But I don't want to take away from this is great work here.
One more thing. Can I say this to him, the young man right here who's had his hand up? If you promise to be respectful and not disruptive, I would give my next question to you. But we just want to engage. No, I've been here before and you've been disruptive.
Not during the actual meetings. I haven't been disruptive to Johnson.
Yeah, I know. So, but if you yes or no? Oh, absolutely. Okay, can he talk, Brandon? But if you be disruptive, I'm going to yield back my time. Whatever.
So I was going to address the controversy, but obviously they're not really willing to listen to counter opposition. My name is Brian Jacobs. I'm running as a non-affiliate for the Kansas governor position. I am running off of a Not Cops Neo campaign method. I am running as an applied anthropologist. I'm doing a systemic audit on our police state. So the things that I really wanted to incorporate into this conversation are more anti-capitalist type approaches and abolitionist type approaches. So that has been one of the driving forces in my opposition to the current administration, is the fact that they are omitting the strategies of putting actual protections on the working class while facilitating the abuse of the ruling class. So when we think about all the strategies they've
Wait a
presented,
minute. Your first mistake is they didn't ask you to speak, so you need to sit down.
they literally just
No, they
said
didn't
like
ask you to speak. These two, this is their thing. This
She-
is their
she gave me-
thing.
she gave
It's
me the
not
field.
hers. It's their thing. You need to sit down. You need to sit down. They didn't ask you to speak.
So again, this is exactly why we're having these.
I don't care what you record, you
I will
sit
be,
down.
I'll be
and
outside
be quiet.
performing a
Nobody
traffic
is
protest.
messing
If
with
anyone
you.
else would like to
You need
participate
to
and join
sit
and have
down
discourse,
and be
I will go
quiet.
ahead and be
You
outside
are
performing a
being
protest
rude.
afterwards. Thank you
And
for
let
your
me tell
time.
you something, this don't give
I
you
will
free.
definitely
Sit
be
your butt down.
So yes, Kansas governor, 2026.
Anybody else have any questions?
Will there be a DAB meeting here Monday?
Yes.
Okay, what time? 6 o'clock. And then the city council meets at 9 or 9:30 Tuesday? 9, okay.
And then the changing of the guard is the 12th at 5:30.
That's a Monday.
5:30 p.m.
5:30 p.m. That's when Joseph will give his 40 minutes of speech.
Aren't you a minister? What you doing with an old fashioned?
Walking the wine.
I'm not judging.
Yes, but St. Paul AME Church, 17th Pius. Come and worship anytime. Everyone's welcome. 11 o'clock. Services are an hour and a half tops. Fourth Sunday is our youth Sunday. Yes, ma'am.
That's hysterical.
Surprised there's no questions from Kevin Mom.
Are you gonna be speaking at the Boys and Girls Club today, or? I know the Adrian and
I will
Miss
not
Kansas is gonna be there.
I will not be speaking. Councilmember Johnson and I will be there. There is going to be an honor for Dr. Polite today. So if you are able to make it, please come, and Councilmember Johnson and I will be there with our mayor to present that honor. But I've not been asked to speak, but whatever they ask, we'll do.
We're ready.
We're always ready.
I think the council member elect will do all the speaking. Get ready for the 12th. Has everybody been to the Brewer Center yet?
Yes.
Amen.
Awesome, awesome. So we were doing, I think today is yesterday was the last day of the open gym during Christmas break, but there'll be a lot of programs in there. The fitness center is almost put together. So definitely want to encourage people to go check that out. Use the space. If you have groups that are meeting, please use that space. We've got a commercial kitchen in there.
Are there any jobs available there? Are they hiring?
Yeah, they're hiring seasonal. I think we just hired 2 other people there, but definitely reach out. And then Park and Rec is kind of hiring overall. And then very soon in another district, Plainview Community Center will hopefully look like the Brewer Center as well. And there'll be some job opportunities. Michael Heisel did a really good job advocating for that. Construction hasn't started, but design work is happening right
What? Oh, go. Well, I just was piggybacking on what you were just saying. I have a 19-year-old graduated high school, and it took, you were talking about 2 weeks to find a job. Took this young man who is completely physically able, schedule wide open, took him 3.5 months plus to find a job. And pretty well spoken, anyway, it is not so easy. And so just wanted to talk about the fact that the city of Wichita, and I've talked to HR about this, they have had in-person application events before, but they stopped them because the process of taking an in-person application and putting it into the computer system was too laborious, but they had a huge response. They had like 500 people come and apply for the jobs that they needed at the time. This was a couple of years ago. So, but I'm saying there's a gap in even our young people have a distrust sometimes of technology and online applications and this stuff. And the city could really fill some of that gap and make those connections with actual people if we could just overcome some of those hurdles of, data inputs that there's just an opportunity to get more personal. And I think that's something our city government, could really improve in and make an impact, because there's a lot of talent that's not getting utilized that we could use as a city, because of personal connection, touch kind of thing. Anyway, just a feedback that I've already given to HR, but sometimes you need it pushing from both ends.
What was that? We just had a job fair here like 4 months ago.
Yeah, right before I left, actually. We had one here.
We gotta do a better job of putting it out there.
Yeah, well, you did, but I'm saying that even when you have a job fair, sometimes you have to do all the work online. There's not a paper application to fill out or an interview right there. You know what I'm saying? So there's having that personal touch where you can actually apply and get the job with a personal connection versus having to go through the online, because somehow the online filters out a heck of a lot of good people that shouldn't be filtered out.
I agree with that. I heard about that system. A lot of companies are using that, and then scans your resume or whatever, looks for certain words and kicks you out.
Yes, sir. It is obnoxiously poor.
A lot of companies, you think you have a personal interview on the phone, it's AI.
Yeah.
Indeed, just happened to a friend.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good information for me since I'll be unemployed.
It's all about relationships. It always has been and it always will be. But let's make them work.
I want to thank you again before you wrap this up for your work at Joseph. This is partly a message to you too, in a couple of respects. First of all, I really appreciate how transparent and open you were about what you wanted to accomplish during your term, and setting it out and telling everybody what you wanted to accomplish. And I think that was good advice to you to make that live. But second, I think you have done a better job. It frustrates me at the city council meetings on the votes that there's no comments. The city council members generally don't comment much before the public input, so you have no idea what their thinking on it is, or which way to comment. And then not a whole lot even after the vote of explanation. I think you've done a better job than most of describing why it is that you voted a certain way. But in a lot of the votes are, there's public comment and then they vote, and you have no idea what the deciding factors were on some of them. Even the sales tax vote, obviously very controversial and so forth. I don't think there was enough discussion from the council members about. I don't remember you saying as much as you did today, at the council meeting about what you thought about, for example. So I think that's really helpful going forward to have some explanation of what why you're voting the way that you are, both before and after the public comment.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I gave a short statement. I didn't go into all the details today. So the sales tax is hard because we aren't legally really able to advocate for it. And if I'm telling, I can give you information, but the reason I support it, if I start talking like that, it just gets weird. Yeah. So I didn't really go into that detail, but what I appreciate about what you said was usually I don't speak a lot before public comment anyway on anything because I want to hear what people have to say. Your point is a good one because people won't know what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we don't know what objections what needs to be addressed. What questions you have. That's what.
That's good feedback. It'll help me for Tuesday, Joseph going. Now, usually, so a lot of people think I've made up my mind for most votes. Usually, I kind of know where I want to go. I think I've said that in this room before, but usually I have an idea of how I'm going to vote, and I give people the opportunity through email. Sometimes social media and at the podium to change my mind or give a different perspective. I've actually changed my mind on votes a lot at the bench. People just don't know that because somebody gets up and makes a really good argument. Or again, I know beforehand I'm gonna vote a certain way. Even if you take golf carts was not something we cared about. The vice mayor brought that up this year and I was kind of adamantly opposed to approving that downtown. And I had a resident from Waterwall reached out and just said, well, if you don't care about scooters, why do you care about golf carts? Never thought about that. And I was like, okay, I guess I support it up there. And if I'm cool with a scooter, I pay with it. You have no protection on it. So, I always try to leave it up for folks to kind of change my mind or give a different perspective or give me something else to think about. And I may change a portion of a vote in that way, like making amendments. But that is a really good point that if I don't do that up front, you really don't know what I'm thinking or where I'm at. And it doesn't give you an opportunity as a resident to either say, you're right, I agree, or have you considered this? I appreciate that. I'll definitely keep that in mind. I will too. So that means he'll be speaking before public comment.
Yeah, obviously not on everything, but especially controversial things.
Well, and I just wanted to, that takes bravery though. We understand that, right? Where when you open up your thought process to the public, that takes real guts because there's a heck of a lot of people and advocacy could be called the same thing, right? But I mean, it opens you to a lot of criticism. And so where the people who stay quiet just don't want the criticism, right? And so, but as a community too, if we want the transparency, we got to stop with the crazy negativity, right? I mean, advocacy is a good thing, right? I mean, it's a good thing, but you got to do it correctly. You can't go calling people's parents' names and you can't go, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we got to do better in how we advocate because the second we go negative or trashy or name calling, whatever we have to say gets put in the trash. So remember, keep your stuff out of the trash by keeping your mouth out of the trash. I mean, keep it up, right? And make safe spaces for our politicians to tell us what they're thinking so we can address how, if you've got a specific concern and this is what you're really thinking, but you might get criticized for it, but I could maybe address that specific concern with you, but I don't even know that you have it. So so thank you for your vulnerability. I've seen that very often. I've also seen you very close to the vest as you also have to be, but thank you because that is something I recognize as bravery. And Joseph, I think you have that same bravery.
Last year, yeah.
And you've always been communicative. You've always been responsive. So, I just as a community, we have to recognize that when he does that, when politicians do this, that's brave. Don't trash, even if you disagree with him, don't trash him for it, right? We gotta have brave people in these spaces because otherwise we get crud done.
Well,
Anyway.
Trish, I appreciate that. And I would just say for this room, and it's something that 8 years ago when I worked on Councilmember Johnson's campaign, that stuck with me is everywhere he went, he would say, hold me accountable. I think it didn't really click for me what that meant until this time around when I was running and how much I appreciate being held accountable. And I hear my father's voice in my ear reminding me that it's not what you say, but how you say it that matters. And so understanding that it's okay to not agree with me. It's okay to have criticisms of my leadership. It's okay to have criticisms of the decisions and the votes that I take. But it's also just as important to understand that it's not what you say, but how you say it. And that public servants don't have to be stepped on and disrespected and dehumanized in the name of this is politics. Because I think that's where our society has gone wrong. And if we really do want to create a society where democracy is able to thrive, we're able to have spirited debate, we've got to approach it with a level of humility and humble posture where we're debating not the person, but the facts that we're presenting to the argument. Okay. Thank you for reminding us of that.
And I think it's good just to have those conversations, especially when we can sit down and talk about disagreement. So, first, I like to pick on all the time with my babies because I'm in the county and I'm in the city. We're different sides of the aisle, but the things we disagree on, we just talk about.
Yep.
And if there's a vote that needs to be had on our side, we can vote that way, and they may vote a different way, and we can talk about the disagreement. There's a lot of things we do agree on. We can sit there and we'll talk about it. citizens. I've had tense meetings, happy meetings. I mean, but we don't get to understand one another if we don't sit down without all the.
Can I add, if I may, we also have to understand that a lot of this is by design, okay? In our communities, anytime there's a scarcity of resources, anytime you're forced to make a decision between raising your property taxes, so people are like, I can't lose my home, but cutting my services, well, I can't lose my streets or my fire department either. So we also have to understand these are difficult topics. I'm sure nobody wants to be in the position of having to make either of those choices. So what I encourage our communities to do, and what I like that I'm seeing here, is we could fight about that disagreement, or we could come together and unite. And kind of to your point, if we work together, if we're siloed and we've got this nonprofit and that nonprofit, we're all doing individual things. I think individualism and selfishness and greed is what is wrong with this economy. The sooner that we all unite and say, you know what, we may not agree on whether we prioritize property taxes or services more, but what if we work together to go to the state and get more funding, to go to Washington and get more funding? And as someone who's been in this, the parallels between Wyandotte and Sedgwick, I promise you, family members, like this is deep. That's how you know that this is by design, that our communities are forced to bicker with each other to fight for scraps, as opposed to go and get more. But when I went, part of the reason I'm running for this office is I went to Derek Schmidt and I said, hey, our property taxpayers cannot afford another property tax increase. But we have 5 bridges that are closed. When are you going to allocate money to get these bridges and this infrastructure fixed? Because that is the job of the federal government. And you know what he said? And I wanted to push back, but I couldn't. He said, listen, if I go to Washington and advocate for dollars and I bring them back to a community and the community's fighting and the city council's fighting each other at the meetings and the public meetings are all, argument, it's hard to be the judge and the arbiter of that. So I would just encourage our communities, do not tear down, these local servants that have to make these difficult decisions. Let's come together and try to go and advocate for the bigger picture and the resources together. That is my ask, because I appreciate that these are difficult decisions, and I would love to see an economy where we can solve all this, and I think that could exist. So thank you for letting me just say that.
So it sounds like the way he's talking, that when we talk about universal trash care or having a grocery store in this area, it's not a hopeless cause.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
So, and I'm glad when people bring it up and talk about where that conversation's been and what needs to happen.
Okay.
So you have a council that is looking at if we were to do that, and I can't say if there's support or not, because that's not a deep conversation, other than I've had it with Mike and Maggie, and I think there's support there. But other than that, if we want citywide trash, which I agree with, we have to invest in those trucks, which means we have to come up with the money to buy the trucks and then hire all the drivers, which will probably leave those private sector folks. So it's just a huge capital investment up front. I think you can pay your waste bill, your utility bill, your water utility. There you go. And everybody would have trash service, and I think we see a lot less
Dumping.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Amen.
So, but it's.
We need that.
Stop that no council's gonna talk about. What hasn't continued to be brought up, and it just may take time on that. And really that's just any issue. And the public just has to understand that initial investment, what that cost would be. The last time it happened, seriously, I forget what year, that early 2000s, maybe, the private sector pushed back like hard.
There were like 60 of them. There's like 2 of them now.
And so after that, they
That's
started.
through the time.
The local companies, and now I think there may be one left locally. Other than that, it's just a major carrier. So keep having the conversation is something they can talk about. And again, if money's freed up in the CIP, makes it a little easier conversation. But then you'll get from the one side that's basically saying that should be private sector and not public. We can point to every government that has it, Detroit, all these other spaces where that's great. I think the service is cheaper and probably more reliable in that way. But you don't have to worry about your rates jumping up $50 like one company just did recently.
Yeah.
But I think we should have that, but just keep having the conversation.
Which when that happens, folks say, I'm gonna legally dump. because I can't afford this.
Right.
And
That-
so
that too.
it's a problem.
My bill went up like $14, you know, and it's just ridiculous. For
But
what
they
traffic
can
is-
because there's only, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And they charge different rates for different folk.
Absolutely. If you've got grandma down the street, we've got examples, right, of where grandma down the street who's just keeps paying her bill and doesn't call in and wait online for 2 hours. She's getting charged 4 times what we're getting charged. How is that okay? Not okay. Not
I've
okay.
got two things. One, federally, we need more help with mental health.
Okay.
But two, immediately, and Trish can talk to this as well, the postal service is terrible when it comes to alleged dog attacks.
Right,
Whoa.
right.
And they take service away from houses around here. You can drive down the street and see a cluster box, and it never comes back.
Yep.
And
That's the issue.
Amen.
That's the
problem.
issue.
And they don't wanna change that, and we
No.
talked, I mean, we even
Refuse.
talked to them, but the joy kinda has its own.
Yeah, also by design, right? So I hear you and we will talk about that.
That
Yes.
they were having to be out there talking to them. We have continued to try to get them just to replace them.
Yeah.
It cost them $1,500 to $2,000 to build that box. And we even said at one point, what if the city gave you 2,000 back? Would you take it out?
But they're going towards, and they're buying the equipment
Yes.
because they're trying to go towards all
All
driving and
cluster.
delivery, right? All cluster boxes. It's not gonna work, especially in our tight little neighborhoods where you have to have a walking person because there's no place to put a cluster box. And there's no place to have a male person do the driving. Everybody's parked on the streets, right? Which as a city, do we want the streets being used for parking or we want to tear down places to build parking lots? Okay, different, I'm just saying, there's so much that's going on and that, that we just need some reasonable public service and we need people to have reasonable conversations, but they're not willing because they don't want to change their mind. And and they don't have to, they've got all the power.
Amen.
Want to make sure.
Grocery store issue for this neighborhood?
You said grocery stores?
Yes. Because I know Dollar General has produce, but it's so unaffordable, it really is.
So-
But people are held captive by that.
The challenge we have faced, so I'll even go back to the beginning before Healthy Corner Store Initiative. When I went to Dollar Store, Dollar General, Family Dollar, none of them were interested in having produce. And I brought up the model I saw outside of Wichita. They weren't interested in doing that. When you look at the major chains, so we have friends at Walmart, we have friends at Dillon Kroger, they left our community. And they have their own profit margins that they're looking at, for why they won't come back. So when they leave huge spaces like we saw at 13 Mile. I don't think we should be going after those folks. And even when we had Save-A-Lot's business model failed nationally and they left. That's why that store closed. They closed over 300 stores across the nation. We should be looking at local grocery, and we see some of the ones, especially in the Latino community, highly successful. But we need to do that over in our community. We just haven't got the folks who have the access to capital to do it, or the expertise. The gentleman who used to run the Save-A-Lot has offered his expertise to keep found an investor to run a store briefly. Then I've been saying we should look at bodegas, which doesn't have that, but if you have a smaller space, you've got your chips and soda, but you also have hot food that you can make some money on, smaller produce footprint, you could work with Donna Pearson McClish, have all that supplied, and it'd be successful throughout our community in a space where we can walk and bike to it. Instead of trying to get on the transit, wait for an hour until we get that improved, or ride your bike, you could just walk to it in the area. We just haven't had, because I've been trying to get this going for about 5 years, we just haven't had enough investors willing to buy a space and make it into a bodega, just to try it out. We may see one downtown. Bruce Riley and I have been talking about it, and the last time we talked about it, he said he was really looking at doing that down there. And that will help downtown, but we really could do that in our community. And I think about all the chefs that we have, you could actually have a unique menu, plus your produce. You can use the Brewer Center, get your culinary work going, but then you could open up your own space. So
Neighboring movements is creating it, and that might be a model that we can work
that's what
together,
we need.
again, where we need to get people together, right?
And then we become too reliant on these larger companies, some decisions made in another state, and then they close down in our community.
Right.
And that's what continues to happen. So I think if we had a local model that would work, the Healthy Corner Store Initiative right now, Mr. MC's is kind of the head of that over here. And that model, putting freezers and refrigerators in spaces. And if you remember from the beginning, I was arguing against freezers and refrigerators because it's great to have that, but if you don't have produce, anything on that. And that's why I really believe Donna Pearson McClush should have been funded. People looking at ways to grow food within the community. You already delivered to over 3 counties, 36 different sites. She just needed a few more vehicles, some more opportunity to grow. We have produce. So that was the approach I thought we should have took. Of course, I got outvoted on that. But I think going forward, community gardens, what we call a high tunnel where you can grow year round, mobile food. What I think is the way to go. The bodegas is something that we really should look at, and that's a small business in our community that'll help our neighborhoods. My thoughts.
I just worry sometimes things are overpriced in there. And maybe it's just a few cents, but it still can make a difference.
Groceries are hard model. Margins are razor thin. And it's just hard. It's hard to provide a cost-effective product that is fresh and good and you can actually make money. I mean, unless you're using Walmart volumes, right? And they don't want to make, in our smaller communities with the walking and biking, that's not enough of a turnaround. I mean, it's economics, it's market. How do we make it marketable?
Well, has there ever been like some kind of cooperative where like the black, what is it called? The black business. The Black Chamber of Commerce, if they ever like thought like, hey, maybe we should go to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, have them teach us how to build a grocery store, because they have like 30 of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be a problem for them to have grocery stores. So it's like, has everybody ever thought of that? Like, hey, we can go over there and see if they'll give us the game so we can just do our own thing, or have them come put one over here. Cause like, I work over there in the 29th Arkansas area and there's like a grocery store every other block. But I don't even know if it's a margin thing like you're saying, cause they don't seem to have a problem
But
with
that's
opening
also a
grocery
cultural thing
stores.
because you're getting certain cultural products.
I
and certain
understand that, but still though, we still eat the same steak and chicken and stuff
No,
like
yes,
that.
yes, sir.
So
Yes,
like,
sir.
I'm just wondering, why hasn't that ever been a thing? Or like, hey, we need to bring these together like Voltron so we can stop complaining about we don't have a grocery store and we see there's people that know how to do the grocery store. Like, has that ever been a thing?
But
Or-
that's really what you say,
Oh.
bodega model.
Those conversations have happened, and they are
they against the teaching us, or like
I forget the family's name, but they were like, just bring us the people, we'll teach.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What was his name of this person?
I gotta go find it in my stuff that I've been packing up, but yeah. We had a conversation, I forgot when that one opened, might have been 2 years ago. I was connected to them and we just talked about it and they were just like, I mean, we would teach whoever. We just need space. And we don't have the spaces over here that are owned by people who wanna make that happen.
The investment.
So are y'all people that's advocating this, y'all willing to learn and run it?
Yeah.
Man, see, cause I'm saying like, you
Yeah,
know,
see, that's what.
talking about it, but then it's like, you know, like,
So that's the other challenge outside of the investment is when we've had meetings in this space and other places, it's okay, so who's gonna run?
Right.
And then that's the tough part, because then that's the sacrifice from that person and their family and all that. So we just don't have a person. And at the time I was trying to get a team of people because I understood it would be tough, but nobody just stepped up for it.
Joseph, can you put that together for the district? Like some programs say, hey, you wanna learn to run a grocery store? We got this guy.
Sparrow will teach you. The ICT tree huggers are doing that.
Who?
ICT tree huggers are doing.
I know Sarah.
Yeah,
She don't have a grocery store.
she's even working with the Healthy Corner Store Initiative. She's on the board.
Right, but I know Sarah, I've known her for years, but she doesn't run a grocery store, so.
She's doing the stuff with Max Market and we're doing a lot of the growing in the local community. So we've been doing that gardening over the last like 4 years.
I'm talking about grocery stores. So.
I understand.
Like, I know
Where you
people
get
that so same thing with the gardening. Like, I know tons of people like, we can plant a garden. I have land, and then I was like, come plant on my land. They never show up. So like I say, that sounds good in theory, but actual people don't really want to go grow their own tomatoes and cabbage. They want to just go to the store, get it, and come home and cook it. So like I said, it sounds good in theory, and I love everything they're doing. But that's not practical.
Whether you want to.
It's just not
I'm just
practical.
doing a shout out. I'm just doing a shout out. I see tree huggers doing gardening work in Wichita District 1.
Yeah.
We need a grocery store, not a garden.
You have my commitment, Antar, though.
But if you put that together, I will try to put people together. She coming, cause she talking.
I was
We really talk about it and need it, then we gotta show up, you know? So, you know,
You gotta eat.
that's it, that's all. But I would like to know this Hispanic person is willing to teach it, like, I'll pull up the learning game, like, really.
Well, I'll give it to the council members.
Oh, yeah, the new.
And when I reach out.
I'm gonna reach out.
No.
We're going up together.
About the grocery stores, the one thing that we have to understand is that it's not per se the city's fault, it's the owners of these grocery chains that will not come into these neighborhoods.
I don't know, like I said, the Hispanics seem to have it under like lock and
That's
key.
right.
Yeah.
Kroger's headquarters is right out of Hutchinson.
Yeah, I see it all the
So
time.
let's talk to them.
Question, who, you said that, Mr. C's or whatever had something going on with collaborating with,
Mr. MC.
MC.
I forget the term, but basically heading off our healthy corner store mission for the city.
that, I see there's a Happy Foods on 17th Street and, what do they talk about, Shaky Jakes or whatever? Are they collaborating with these? Are they?
Jakes, I think, is the recipient of the freezers or refrigerators.
Yeah, the
I haven't been
land
to the Happy Foods place.
She's on 13th and Hillside as well as a freezer.
Yeah.
So those are what's being distributed. It's not the produce, and they work out their own deal with the produce.
I'm one of the ones that appreciated when, the dollar store started having fruit and vegetables, because I would hate getting in my car to go 2 miles to Dillon's to buy me an onion. So I was appreciative of
I'm
that.
glad they did it, but it took them so long, and I heard no all the time, and then I see it. It happened.
They didn't come back to you either, did they? Tell
They
you?
did.
I'm just saying.
I got a phone call about it. What's this market thing on 21st? Ain't no market on 21st. I drive over the top. I guess they did.
So, and I guess my thought was that maybe you can get with those three and see how they can collaborate. Huh?
Kroger or the Mac? Or,
No,
I know Queen. Yeah, I know.
Corner places
Familiar
that
with
we
them.
have in the community already
Yeah.
that I've never attended.
But he needs to be there with the Mexicans too. It's the guy, like,
Yeah.
he's a business owner, so you know.
Well, I'd like to stand and do that.
I think she needed an announcement.
I'm sorry. I know we're about to wrap up, and when Wichita Independent Neighborhoods is having a social. So if you're a neighborhood person and you're like, I never get to be with people that do the thing that I do and talk about the solutions and actually connect and get together. 26th is a Monday. It's gonna be 5:30, so it'll be just after work, some apps and some drinks and some talking. And we're gonna also plan for our advocacy agenda for the year, because that's something Wynn's gonna be doing. Is we're gonna get up and we're gonna make an advocacy agenda. What do our neighborhoods need to work collaboratively together on? So thank you for that. 26th, Monday, 5:30 p.m. It's at Urban League. Come show up. You don't have to be a member yet. I hope to earn your membership, and let's work together as neighborhoods and get stuff done for the residents of Wichita. Thank you.
Well, as we
We'll talk about contamination and that money that just came in. How is that gonna be allocated? I have people asking questions and they don't understand. Like, what if people don't go test it? People who are deceased? What happens to the money if it doesn't go to staff? Things like that.
The good news is all 3.5 million, actually 3.6 million is allocated already. So it's all set.
It's all good.
All set. So the recipients, which I don't have that list, but it is online from the Health Foundation, they all have received their funding. You're looking at Health Corps, Graceman, Sponsor, Black Nurses Association, a few other organizations. That money will go toward free testing. There's a large communication effort that has already started, but you see it ramp up even more this year, almost 700,000 put towards that. And that will encourage everybody who lives in the area or who has lived in that area to go get tested. And you can guarantee your first, how many levels Dr. Douglas talked about, but your first 2 levels are free for sure. Once you get into CT scan and MRI, you might have to pay something, but your first few tests are free.
Can we bill back to you?
It could be anything from Union Pacific, though, is going to be civil litigation. So none of that money was for paying anyone other than getting that equipment and free testing. There should be a lawsuit with Union, and I think they should pay for it. Anyone who has cancer, anyone who died of those types of cancer, all of those folks should receive some compensation, but that won't happen outside of litigation. I don't think the state's gonna put any more money towards that. And I never tried to complicate the issue too much, but out of the 105 counties in Kansas, all of them have contamination.
Yeah.
And all of them have things almost as serious as 29th and Grove. So when we looked at KDHE and what they were or were not doing here, it's a problem throughout the whole state. And I don't know that anybody really knows what to do about that. But the second part of what we should be doing as a city, which will probably continue on, because I know Commissioner Beatty was pushing for it, and I know Joseph will too, is how do we improve communication and partnership? KDHE, I'm not scientists, because I love science, but they talk a few. And so some of that we were hearing, I mean, you kind of got it was bad, but you didn't know exactly what that meant. So what we were trying to build out was a communication plan where KDHE would share information about contamination. There's over 208 active sites currently in Sedgwick County. Some big, some small. Some of that is a few gallons of diesel fuel spilled somewhere. Some of that is what we see in 29th and Grove, but also in West Wichita and East Wichita. A lot of people are not talking about that. It is just as bad. But how do we get that broken down in a way where we can tell the people in that contamination area, this is what it is, this is how long it's in there, this is what the risk is, and you should go get tested. That communication should happen, and the recommendation was that it happens every 2 years, for sure, so that any new member who's elected knows about it at every level of government, even school board, and that while you're in your term, you just keep hearing about it. It stays at the forefront so we can address that. That way it's never a gap of 23 years or so on this. So somebody always knows about it, somebody's always working on it. That communication has to happen, and it's not right now, and it's something that I think can be improved. Sedgwick County should be the leader of that. That was kind of what we pitched to the governor's office. Those steps have not materialized, because after we said that should happen, our focus was what's solution right now in 29. So we did do that. People should go get tested. I would encourage just taking as many people as possible if they lived over there, even for a day. Part of the issue that took so long initially was figuring out who should go get tested. If you lived there for 6 weeks, if you hung out at your family's house, like I used to go to my uncle's house who lived off of 23rd and Poplar, should I go get tested? I wasn't there a long time, but was it strong enough back then that I should? So at this point, we're not saying if you were there an hour, just go get tested. All you can do is find out you don't have anything and you'll feel good about it. The other thing though, and this will come out in the messaging, is don't just go get tested once. You should go get tested every year. Just because you don't have it today does not mean that next year it won't pop up, because sometimes it takes a while for that to show. And that was one of the challenges, if you remember the early issues we had, was there were folks pushing for one test, but they hadn't talked to the doctors. And the doctors were like, yeah, I mean, you can do it and not have it, but you got to come back next year. Once we started hearing you need an annual test, there was, well, we've got to make sure that's free, because they've already been screwed over from the contamination. They should not have to pay every year for some new test. So that was where all that came from and where we landed. So we encourage everybody to get tested if you've been over there. Hopefully folks know people who moved out of state that lived over there and get them tested too. So the reality of that situation right now is they've done soil and air testing in 5 or 6 areas. There was only one area where they found something, and some cleaning supplies had been used right before the test. When they went back, there was nothing there. So the assumption is right now, you don't have to worry about that being in your air, but it's still in the groundwater. So if you use well water, you're is contaminated. And it will be until those devices get constructed and put into service by third quarter of this year. Announcements will come out, Joseph will be aware of that, but until those devices start, the 10-year cleanup on that does not start. So once they go in 26, it'll be 2036 before all that groundwater is clean.
And landlords and real estate agents should be making folks who are moving into that area aware, because that's a good question. I was concerned about that, so I did ask. It's a matter of holding them accountable to really share.
But has anything been done with the realtors? How did-
From who sold property?
Or will be selling property?
Well, but doesn't that also devalue? I mean, cause you don't wanna, I mean, that's a crappy place to be in, right? That you're living in a contaminated place and now everybody is,
Has so far.
okay,
There may be, I haven't heard of anyone, yes, I won't say no one. I haven't heard from anyone that said their property value has decreased because of this. And in fact, we had several homes in that Plume area that we sold were higher than market value. And I've seen other houses being sold in the area, so I haven't had anyone come to me yet to say.
okay,
And I haven't had any realtor tell me that it's impacted it. That was one of my concerns initially when,
right,
before all this went public. So one of the things I told Joseph was sometimes you know stuff early. I was concerned about 30 days once I started understanding what this really was, like what's happening. And then we started having conversations. And then when that health study came out the next year, I was really concerned. But we haven't seen that negative impact. And I'm hoping that when we address all of this with the machines in the ground and now people can test it, that kind of helps out.
and know how to, I mean, don't use well water, right? I mean, know what they're looking at, and so then they can make a choice and be smart, educated about how to use their property safely.
The challenge is the well water.
It is.
The state relied on a study that was done early on that said there was only 16 wells. And I reminded a few folks that sometimes we don't necessarily tell the city or state that we're doing some,
Right.
some wells there. It's not reported.
Right?
There's two guys over there right now who, most people see the guy on 13th Street that have all the well water signs out there.
Yeah.
I talked to him and he keeps telling me it is well water and I keep telling him he shouldn't be using that. I don't know if it is or isn't, but it's dangerous. I mean, he's exposing himself as he goes out with his hose and he's touching that water and walking on it. And I don't know if he was one of the reported wells. Union Pacific did that study when KDHE said we were good at 16. They did an additional study working with Root to Power to go out and door knock and all of that. So I hope there's no active wells, but even him, when I talk to him about the dangers, he just continues to do it, but he's informed, so.
Yeah.
There were a number of public education materials made. Are those still available to the public about using well water?
Yeah, we had some, we still have them. We've got over it all, not really, a lot of those, there's a meeting that we had with, Union Pacific. We can get more, the county has them, so just reach out to them. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I've been a residential realtor for 37 years. Lived through Gilbert Mosley and North Corridor. At that time, realtors were required to get, before closing, a signed agreement that the new homeowner knew they were purchasing above a very similar club to what you're dealing with. And that's why I asked, have the realtors been involved in this? Do we know we're supposed to do some education?
That is a good point. I didn't know that piece that had happened. We had been talking about, again, there's a second conversation that really needs to happen with the county. So we talked about on your tax bill that goes out, some notification that you were in that.
That would be good.
We did not finalize that conversation again because we were just focused on getting the testing happen, but I do believe you should know if they live above a contamination site and what that is.
And it just said you're not gonna be held responsible financially to clean it up because the city pulled it back from the federal. Did their own, it's still in progress, very successfully, but it's a long-term decontamination. And the title companies, most of them required that form It just said don't water your vegetables. You can use it to water grass, but yeah, be careful with it. Don't drink it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would add to that, Habitat for Humanity, we built a number of homes and bought a number of homes from the city of Wichita. Legally, you are supposed to tell folks, so that is still in place whenever you're on top of contaminated water. So we've sealed wells and we tell folks that, but we do have some partner families that will say, well, we're gonna get into the well anyway. But they're told and they sign off on the things that say that the water is contaminated and you shouldn't. But legally, any home sold on a plume, and by the way, there's 200 plus sites. So you probably most likely live on a plume yourself.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, it's not just Northeast Wichita, it's across the city. It's actually pretty bad in the contaminated water sites, but they are made aware. And legally they have to. So any realtor selling, they would know, and that would be in the title word, so.
Cisterns is a whole nother conversation.
Oh, yeah, but the realtors are not being told that right now as an active realtor. I've not heard that about it for years.
Who are you a realtor with?
Right now I'm with in Berkshire. That's the
Okay.
way I was YGAN most of the time.
Okay.
That'll probably change pretty soon, next to Councilmember Shepherd.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask her, were they being told far enough ahead of the process or right before closing?
They're told prior, like far enough ahead.
Okay.
So that they're not, we don't want someone in a program and then realize, so that's the first thing, when you come to an informational, that's what's shared is, hey, these homes are in the plume. And that's not stopped anyone, and we're seeing property values raise in this area. A lot of homes are being, when we talk about new construction in this community, don't blink on it because there's no shortage of new housing, duplexes being built in this area.
Are they affordable? Are they affordable?
Well, it depends on what you mean by affordable. So right now, we're selling our homes between 135,000 to 160,000
That's
for
great.
most folks that live. I mean, that is affordability, right?
Yeah.
30% of your income. But
That's
I think
great.
a lot of homeowners in this area would like to see 60 to 80,000. That's a harder sell.
But it's cool. I look and it's just that you then have to have the capital to do some fixing up sometimes.
Right. If you buy in a $60,000 home.
The real issue with that
120.
is that
Yeah.
I own my home in this area. My taxes keep going up and I have not done any renovations to my house since
Yeah.
'83. And it's because of all these new homes being built in my community.
Your comps are going up.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Most homes appreciate on average
Fixed income.
4% a year. Just because of inflation.
Yeah.
Cost of materials, everything else.
Brandon, are you gonna miss those emails from Chicago?
Yes.
Probably still get those.
Whoever Jay Shepherd at Wichita.gov is gonna be getting your email.
JW.
JW, I just saw that.
No, I will not miss those, but I've been doing exposing them.
Yeah.
Had somebody reach back and apologize. I didn't think I would get all these calls. Oh, I don't know who called.
Now you know.
Well, as we wrap up, I guess my last breakfast, again, it has been an honor to serve. I will address one thing. So many of you witnessed today that there was somebody who continued to have their hand up and I did not call on them. I will say, just as a man, I don't do disrespect. And from the disrespect, the name calling, the racial slurs, the parents that I've had to talk to about the graffiti and chalk that was done out front, and how they've had to talk to their kids about the terms that were being used and how they didn't appreciate it. I don't appreciate that. And when you do those things and use those tactics, you don't get my respect, you don't get my acknowledgement. That was why you saw what you saw today. And that will continue. I don't do disrespect in a position. I don't do disrespect as a man. And once you do it, that's how you get, that's the energy you get from me going forward. So that was why you saw that. If anybody was offended by that, I apologize, but that's just how I roll. I don't do that type of disrespect, and I won't going forward. Aside from that, again, I appreciate the opportunity to represent you all. Hope I've made at least most of you happy over the term. We have a lot of battles that we did with the city, and again, I think District 1 is in really good hands with Joseph. Joseph will engage in ways that I couldn't. He was on my first campaign. He was one of the folks he didn't make fun of me, but the rest of the team with social media and all the apps and stuff, I'm not good at. My TikTok is still kind of terrible. But if you saw the campaign, he's great at it. So I know he'll be engaged in those different ways. I'm excited to see what he does, his vision for the district. He has committed to being here at Atwater as well as City Hall. So if you don't want to go through all that security down to City Hall, Atwater, you can come in and say hello and be here. ADA accessibility is easier here as well. But again, it's been an honor. Still a lot of work to do. Didn't get everything done. But I think Joseph will make a lot of progress. A lot of the big issues we kind of handled in December. So that was not an issue. Well, kind of. Phase one.
Never ends.
But everything else, we still got housing work to do. And then I know Joseph has a lot of goals and commitments he made to the community. So again, it's been an honor. Thank you. Glad this was the last breakfast. We're getting out at noon. Going forward, every breakfast for at least the next 4 years, it's council member Shepard.
We'll be out in an hour. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Well, once again, want to say thank you to Councilmember Johnson and also his wife and his two girls as well. Who have I'm really big on that because my father growing up was a pastor, and a lot of people would often thank my dad but never thank my mom. And I know that there's a sacrifice that comes with being married to somebody who's in public service and the sacrifices that come with it. And I've had the opportunity over 8 years to learn a lot from Brandon. Being patient and being measured is it's going to be difficult for me because he's more patient than I am. But it is a skill. God must have heard me say that, and I got lots of good practice during the campaign, and I'm really grateful for that. Very similar. I am willing to engage with anybody, folks who agree with me, folks who don't agree with me. I just ask that you let's not disrespect each other. I just really think things can get spirited. You can even get passionate and raise your voice. I just think, again, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So I know we all care about our community, and I know that we all want to work together to make our community better. I'm a big boy, so please never feel like you're hurting my feelings. But yes, I need your help. So this is not the time where you get to just say congratulations and walk away. Now's the time where you need to look at what board you want to be on, or how you want to help serve the community. Antar, I'm holding you accountable to hold other people accountable. We talked about homelessness today, but I will tell you, I have a heart for young people. I'm a young person myself. The crime that is happening in our city right now is really impacting a lot of our young people. So that is something that I'm going to hit ground running, as well as, again, the homelessness, but also tackling those not sexy issues like waste collection isn't typically a sexy issue to talk about, but it's one that makes a world of a difference in the lives of people. So please know that always my goal is to bring hope and help. Last thing I'll do is I'll give you my personal cell phone number because you can find it anyways. You can also find my address, but I am secured in my building, so you will be out there by yourself if you get too rowdy. But my cell phone number is 316-226-0974. My cousin Karen will tell you that I'm better texter than I am answering the phone. So yes, I will respond. Shoot me a text if I don't pick up the phone, and I will respond. And then my City of Wichita email address is the letter J W S H E P A R D at wichita.gov. And I have access to it, and I've already started responding to emails. So if you're ever like, hey, let's get together, let's chat. I want you to see something in my neighborhood, or hey, I have this idea, or I've been thinking about serving on a board. Here's where my passions are. What do you have in alignment with that? Or hey, I just want to talk to you to get to know you, just so I have a rapport. So the first time I call and cuss you out, you don't think I'm crazy. I'm happy to do that as well.
But we're not gonna call you and cuss you out. We've already talked about it.
Yeah, there we go. We're
not gonna cuss you out. We can be spirited.
know that my door is open is what I really want to say. And know that I want to work with any and everybody who wants to make our community better. So.
J.W. Shepherd, Shepard. Yes.
What's the number again?
It's 316-226-0974.
You got a pager or a beeper or anything like that?
I don't think you're you know, his email Go see it. January 12th, 5:30 p.m. Send him an email at 5:25.
I will tell you something funny. I think they will actually deactivate my access to everything in the city next Friday or Saturday.
Like the 10 days before the actual handoff.
It'll either be that or Monday morning. So if you send me something, you'll get J.W. Shepherd at wichita.gov. And it's
Will your email get over?
Yeah.
Okay,
There
that
will
makes
be a,
sense.
there will be a forward that you'll see that has his contact that'll say I'm no longer in office, and then I think he'll get
That makes sense.
What are your plans?
I have been debating. I know on the 12th I'm going home. On the 13th, I don't know if I'm gonna go bother him at his
Good.
or if I'm gonna just put my feet up. I know I gotta take the girls to school because Danielle won't let me just stay home.
Please find this man a job.
Oh, too.
That's what our neighborhood president says. He said, I married you for all my life, but not all day.
So yeah, I'll take a little break. Now. I've been talking to different people. So, I'll get on my girls' nerves, making sure the doors are done every day.
My dad's job.
Yeah.
Dinner's cooked when your wife gets home.
When you'll blink and they'll be 23. This is my oldest. Yeah.
Happens.
Well, thank you all. Going forward next month. Next month we'll be here.